Hello and welcome to Dear Franny, the podcast of uncommon conversations about love and lots of dating advice. I'm your host, Francesca Hogi. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here with me for this episode. I am very grateful to you for listening. And if you are new to the podcast, welcome, welcome. I've got lots of past episodes for you to catch up on. And this is season 3 of Dear Franny. And for this season, I am doing a weekly show. Each week, it's a different topic having to do with your dating journey. And the overall theme is how to find true love, which is what I'm really obsessed with helping people do. I should just say that I define true love as a relationship that has as its foundation mutual respect, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, emotional safety, physical safety, joy, and commitment. So that is the foundation of a true love relationship as I define it. It's not the way the fairy tale industrial complex defines it, which is about finding one perfect partner. And once you find that perfect partner, then everything in your life magically works out. We all know that it's not how it works. And the good news is that there are multiple potential partners out there in the world for you. And a very deep core belief that I have, and it's only strengthened over the 8 years that I've been helping people to find true love, is that true love is possible for every single person, and that includes you. So I'm really glad that you are here. Thank you for listening, and let's get started. So, this week's episode is about how to feel more worthy, right? So, it's about self worth, how to feel more worthy while dating. And one of the biggest love blocks that I see are challenges with feeling worthy. And what's really sneaky about this is that you don't always consciously say, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel worthy, right? It's all these other kinds of things that can sneak in. The underlying issue is really this lack of belief in your own worthiness. So, what do I mean by self worth and how can you feel more worthy? That's what this whole episode is about. So, self worth, it is the internal barometer of your deservingness. Self worth is something that, in my opinion, we have a self worth crisis in our culture. We live in a world where we have been told in a million ways, way more than a million ways actually, that we aren't good enough and that we need to do things in order to be worthy, that we need to have things in order to be worthy. We need to be perceived in certain ways in order to be worthy. We need to, have a relationship or have money or have a certain kind of body or all of these things, own something, right? This is even with advertising and marketing, and a lot of it is really tied to when you have this thing, then you'll be good enough, right? Then you'll be happy. And that is a lie, but it's a pervasive one. So I always start many conversations about love, but certainly the conversation about self worth by talking first about self compassion. So, those of you who are familiar with me, you might have heard my self love formula, and I do have past episodes about self love, but I want to just kind of recap it quickly here because it's related. So, this idea of self love is one that can feel very challenging because it's like, well, what does it mean? Does it mean confidence? Does it mean thinking that you're better than other people? Does it, what does it mean? Does it mean just looking in the mirror and just thinking, oh my God, I love you so much? And what I realized over years of really my own journey to figuring out how to love myself is that self love isn't just one thing, right? There are different elements of self love, and love is a verb. It is about action and taking loving action towards yourself. I start with self compassion because it's very easy for us to judge, criticize, shame, beat ourselves up. And that is something that is so counterproductive because when we do that, all it does is cloud our vision. I call it the shame fog. If it was possible for us to berate, shame, criticize, judge ourselves into lasting positive change in our lives, then none of us would have anything left to judge, shame, or criticize ourselves about because we would have, just shamed it out of ourselves a long time ago. But in fact, that's not how it works. And in fact, that habit of judgment and criticism and shaming is actually something that keeps us really stuck. Okay. So when it comes to anything in life that feels challenging, it's very important to always make sure that you are being compassionate towards yourself. You are being kind towards yourself. You are giving yourself a break for whatever your real or perceived shortcomings or mistakes may have been in any situation. So I want to start this conversation out by making sure that we're doing a self-compassion check-in. So whatever your current dating situation is, I want to make sure, take the time right now. Are you willing to release any judgment, criticism, and shaming that you have, any feelings of shame that you have towards yourself about your current romantic situation? Whether you have never been in a relationship, whether you have, dated dozens and dozens of people, whether you have been in one or two long relationships and find yourself single again or for the first time, it doesn't matter. Okay. That is all part of your journey and it is all good. And if there's anything in your life that you want to change, anything in your dating life that you want to change, if you're ready to call in this true love relationship that is available to you, then it is very, very necessary that you make sure that you are actively releasing any judgment, any shame, any criticism that you have towards yourself for whatever your situation is. Okay. So please, please don't skip this step because self-worth is really, it's huge. It's really maybe everything. However, we need other practices to really support us in getting to that place where we can truly believe and feel deeply that we are truly worthy. So once you've given yourself that break, you've done that self-compassion reset. Okay, I'm going to give myself a break. I'm going to release the judgment so I can move on. Then when you move on to self-worth. And self-worth is huge, 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 huge. So it is important for everyone to ask themselves where you believe worthiness comes from. I happen to believe that worthiness is inherent, that you are born worthy, and that there is nothing that you could ever do that could diminish your worthiness. And if you think of a newborn child, and maybe you have a child in your life who you love, who you can think about, or even if you don't have a child in your life specifically, just think of a newborn baby anywhere in the world. Think of that fresh soul that's coming into this planet, into this life experience, and tell me and ask yourself, what does this child have to do to be worthy, to be deserving of love, of respect, of safety, of creativity, of kindness, of communication, of abundance, of good health? What does that baby have to do to be worthy? Do we say, okay, you know what, we need to wait and see how this one turns out before we decide whether or not this human being is worthy or not? No, right? So, I mean, obviously, there are people who unfortunately are born into circumstances where there is no one who has a belief in inherent self worth. And that can cause a lot of trauma and a lot of problems. And it's something that's passed down, right? So if you don't believe you're worthy, then you don't see other people as worthy. And this goes on and on and on and on. And this is why we have, as I describe it, a self-worth crisis in our culture. Okay, so that's all the background, right? So now what do we do? When it comes to dating, now what do we do? So the importance of this and the reason that I'm doing this episode is that feelings of unworthiness are something that are very, very, very common in dating. And I would say that this is probably the most common love block that I see. And this manifests in, dating people who mistreat you. And when I say mistreat you, because you're like, oh, maybe I don't let anyone mistreat me. Or maybe you do, right? And that's something that you're conscious of. But it can be really sneaky because it can be anything from settling from someone where you don't have emotional safety, right? Where that person is very critical of you or you feel gaslit. It could be settling for a situation where you have somebody who they're not that into you, but you really, really want to like them and you really want to be in a relationship. And so you're pushing and you're pushing and you're trying to make it happen and you're trying to, quote unquote, make this person love you and make this person want to be with you and a million other variations. So one of the biggest things that I always challenge people to do when we talk about self-worth is to ask yourself and to reflect. And this is what I really want to invite you to do right now is to reflect on your current and your past, your recent past, dating, romantic relationship situations, and ask yourself this question. And remember self compassion. So we're using compassionate curiosity when we ask these questions. Otherwise, the answers won't be true or helpful. So once you have that reset of compassionate curiosity, then you can ask yourself, if I truly believed that I was worthy of having the love that I want, if I truly believe that I deserved it, what would I have done differently? What might I have done differently? Because the point is not that there's a perfect answer, but I do want you to start to consider, right? And so I'll just give you an example from my own life and my own dating history, which was a long and winding path before I found my true love. Not my one true love, because there isn't just one, but my true love relationship. And so when I look back in my past, one of the patterns that I had was dating people who were non-committal, right? And we may have had a great connection and we might have had a great time together, but I wanted more. I wanted a commitment. I wanted somebody that I could really depend on and know that we could build with. And I dated a series of people who showed me in various ways that they were not that person and that wasn't something that they were ready for or capable of. And at the time, lower self worth, I felt that it was my job to stick it out and to try to convince them that they should want to be with me, that they should love me, etc. And so when I reflect on that compassionately, I see that that was me not truly believing that I deserved someone who I didn't have to convince. I didn't have to stick in there. I didn't have to try and be patient and do this and do that. And maybe if I do this and second guess myself and all of these things, right? And so I want you to do this exercise for yourself and to reflect. And again, compassionate curiosity, okay? And once you do that, you're going to start to get a clearer picture. It's very often when I talk to people about self worth and they'll say, oh, well, I know I'm worthy. Hell yes, I know I'm worthy. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of this. I'm worthy of that. And I'm like, amazing. You are. You absolutely are. So let's talk about it and let's talk about your dating patterns. And oftentimes, once we start talking about it, then all of the ways in which they are settling, right? And they have settled, they've continued to settle. Some people are just resigned to settling, like, oh, that's just what it's going to take, right? So, and when I say settling, as I mentioned at the beginning, my definition of a true love relationship, if you do not have any of those things that I mentioned, so that mutual respect, emotional and physical intimacy, emotional and physical safety, joy or commitment, if you don't have those in your as the foundation of your relationship, in my opinion, you're settling. You're settling. You're settling. You deserve more. More is available for you. I know that it's not always easy to believe that, but the point here that I want to really drive home, and this is the how-to of this episode. Okay, so we talked about what it is, we talked about how it's challenging. Okay, but now what do you do? All right. So the important thing to remember here is that when it comes to feelings of worthiness, your feelings follow your actions. So when it comes to dating, it is very, very important that you are being mindful, that you are being intentional about how you are going about dating, about who you are choosing to date, who you are choosing to invest your precious time, your precious life force energy into. Because if you are choosing people who are not excited to get to know you and to build with you, if you are choosing people with whom you don't have that safety, right? Or you don't have that intimacy, or you don't have that joy, right? That's a big thing that so many people overlook. And when it comes to dating, it's like you forget that it's supposed to be joyful. You forget that the connection that you have with other people is supposed to be joyful, right? And it's not that it's happy every single moment and you're skipping through meadows every moment. But joy is something that is foundational, right? The ability to really access and experience joy together. So I need to just clarify that because oftentimes when people talk about settling or not settling, they say, well, I don't want to be with somebody who's shorter than I want them to be because that would be settling. Or I don't want to be with somebody who has less money than I want them to have because that would be settling. But oftentimes, the people who are saying that to me are completely settling in so many ways, having to do with those fundamental elements of a true love relationship, as I mentioned. So the settling is about that foundation. So, what I really want to encourage you to do is start to slow things down in dating and be very intentional and be very mindful and pay attention to when you start to feel any insecurity coming up, and what that results in. Because if that results in, oh my gosh, I'm feeling kind of insecure, I need to go above and beyond to get this person to like me or something like that. If that's a response, if you feel somebody pulling away in dating and your response is to just chase and to try to quote unquote, make them want to be with you, I understand it's a completely common and natural thing. And Lord knows I have been there in the past. So I don't judge anybody because I'm like, no matter what you've been through, I promise you, I have, if I haven't personally been through it, which I might have, then I've worked with so many people and I know that life is challenging. Relationships are triggering. We have trauma, we have conditioning, we have past experiences that do not define who we are. They do not define what is capable for you. So as you go into dating or through dating now, I really want you to start asking yourself and checking in with yourself, if I truly believe that I was worthy of having the love that I wanted, what would I do now? And as I said, your feelings will follow your actions. So, what I really want you to take away from this episode is the understanding that it is up to you to cultivate your own feelings of self worth and to deepen your own feelings of self worth. This is not something that can come from outside of ourselves. When we look to other people to validate our self worth, you'll find, and perhaps you know this from your own personal experience, it is a bottomless pit. We can never get enough worthiness from other people because it is not theirs to give to us or to take away from us. So you were born worthy. There's nothing that you can ever do to diminish your inherent worthiness. Your worthiness of love, your worthiness of connection, your worthiness of intimacy, your worthiness of abundance. Again, think of that newborn baby, okay? Think of a bunch of newborn babies. Which one of those babies are you going to decide is not worthy, right? And so it's really important for us to continually do this check-in because there are so many messages, again, that you are receiving that are telling you that you need to have certain things, do certain things, look certain ways, act certain ways in order to be good enough. That's a lie. You are good enough just because you are. So now, how can you start to put that into action? That is the inquiry that is your challenge. When I challenge you to ask yourself this question, if I truly believed I was worthy, the point is not that you're going to have a perfect answer, right? But you're going to start to get clues. And maybe you'll start to say, well, I know that in the past, what I've done in this situation is X. So maybe if I truly, truly believed that it was safe for me to walk away from this person, if I truly believed that by saying no when someone is showing me that they're not excited to be with me, or they don't have the character that I'm seeking, or they don't have the relationship goals that I'm seeking, right? Or they're not joyful, right? Or they're not interested in commitment. All of those things, when you start to see that, say in the past, my reaction was just to keep pushing and to hope against hope that maybe things were going to work out. So maybe the high self-worth action for me to take right now is to see this person for where they are, not judge them, but just to see it as an incompatibility with what I am looking for my life, and I walk away. Maybe that's what I do. Maybe when that person texts me who has been treating me like, the back burner option every now and again when they're feeling bored or insecure or they want to get an ego boost and they come back and they pop in, they say, hey, what's up? You want to hang out, right? Maybe I'll not respond because in the past I did, and I know what that resulted in, and I know how that made me feel. So self-worth is something that I want you to know that you can deepen your feelings of worthiness. So the more you take high self-worth actions, right, the more that feelings will catch up. And the more that you will not have to do the check-in of, well, if I believed I was worthy, what would I do? If I believed I was worthy, because you'll get to the place where it becomes second nature. Okay. And once you get to that place, your whole world is going to open up, and not just your dating life. Okay. Because the self-worth that is required to manifest all of the good, the highest vibration, all the amazing things in life that we all want, right? The love, the purpose, the abundance, the good health. Self-worth is the foundation of all of those things. So it is a disconnection from the truth of who we are when we see ourselves as less than worthy. And dating is an activity and an experience that gives you many, 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 many opportunities to start to strengthen and to choose that high self-worth action. So I want you to do that time and time again. The more you do it, the more it will catch up, the more your feelings will catch up. And the last thing here, I mentioned self-compassion, of course, and then, of course, self-worth. And then the last piece here is self-validation. And by self-validation, that is giving yourself credit. Okay. That is just being like, oh, wow, I did it, giving yourself credit. And I want you to do that as well. So every time you ask yourself the question, if I truly believed I was worthy of having the love that I wanted, what would I do now? And then, first of all, I want you to give yourself credit for asking the question. So validate the fact that you even took the time to answer the question or ask the question. I want you to give yourself credit for the fact that you're taking the time to listen to this episode right now. Okay. Like, this is huge. The fact that you're like, okay, maybe there's something here I need to learn and to deepen and to strengthen within myself. That is the part of you that knows that you are worthy. And it's trying to break through and speak to all of the lies that have been told to you that have diminished your belief in your inherent worthiness. So I'm really proud of you for even listening to this episode. And I want you to be proud of yourself. And every time you take an action that is a high self-worth action, your best guess, your best intuition about what that is at that time, I want you to give yourself credit for having done that. Because the more you're able to validate yourself and give yourself that credit, the more the feelings of confidence will build, right? And the more confident you feel that you know that you can take that high self-worth action, the more easy it will become. I mean, it's just a beautiful, virtuous cycle. So self-compassion, self-worth, which you can take that action, and then that validation, that self-validation. Those are the first three steps of truly, truly, truly loving yourself, not just trying to convince yourself, but really going deep into those feelings of self-love, which you deserve so much. And the more that you love yourself, the more you will attract and be attracted to people who love themselves, right? And when people love themselves, then you're able to have a healthy relationship. Then you're able to have a relationship where you have the respect, the safety, the intimacy, the joy, and the commitment that you deserve. And that is what I want for you. So I hope that this episode has been helpful. And I want to remind you that, and maybe if this is the first time you're listening to the show, you don't know this, but I have a standing room that I do every Tuesday for True Love Tuesday on Clubhouse, the social media, the social audio app. And it's called True Love Tuesday. It's every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 p.m. Eastern for those here in the US. If you're in the UK, gosh, it's midnight, so it's a little late for you, and on around the world. And by the way, shout out to all of my international listeners. I see you and I appreciate you. And I'm just incredibly grateful to see the podcast like spreading around the world. So thank you so much for listening. But wherever you are in the world, on True Love Tuesday, every week, I'm discussing the same topic of this podcast. So please find me on Clubhouse. I'm at Dear Franny. I'm also at Dear Franny everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, all the places. I'm at Dear Franny on Clubhouse. My club is called the True Love Society on Clubhouse. And if you follow me or you join the club, you'll get notified of all of our rooms. And so you can join us on Tuesday for the conversation, the live conversation on this topic where people can ask me questions and we can go deeper, and then listen to the new episode that comes out every Friday. So on the same topic. So just want to let you know that that's going on. I also want to invite you to check out my membership community, which is also called the True Love Society. And it is open to women. Sorry to the fellas, but at this point, it is a space for women, and it is a place where I am doing monthly live Q&As via video. I'm doing live monthly masterclasses via video. There's a library of resources, past classes, past workshops, past special guests, past Q&As. And there's an amazing community of women who are really supporting each other on their dating journeys. So I created this community to really be a place where I can serve more people and serve more people directly I'm not taking on extended one-on-one clients anymore. So this is the way to work with me. The membership for the True Love Society is $25 a month, and you can cancel at any time. So there is no commitment. And for as long as you are in the community, you have access to all of the resources, all of the workshops, and all of the community. So I highly, highly, highly invite you and recommend that you check us out. And you can do that by going to betruelovesociety.com. And the link is in the show notes. As I also mentioned, I am Dear Franny everywhere on the socials, and I would love to see you and to connect with you there. So please do find me. Just wanted to make sure you knew about that and that you knew about Clubhouse. And I thank you so much for listening. And I hope that if you have enjoyed this podcast, that you would share this episode with a friend who you think might benefit. I also want to shout out everyone who's taken the time to rate and review the show. Thank you so much. And it really, really helps. And if you haven't done that yet, I invite you to do so on whatever platform you get your podcasts. You can just, tap that 5-star rating. And if you are moved to also write a review letting me know what you've enjoyed about the show, I would so, so, so appreciate that as well. Okay. I know that the love that you want is possible for you. And I want you to go out into this world and to manifest that for yourself. And believe me, once you feel deeper feelings of self-worth, it becomes easier and easier and easier. So that is my wish for you. Be safe, be well, have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Until next time, take care.